You're probably wondering how we have got ourselves into this mess, and importantly, what Australia is doing to address the problem of overuse of plastics and food waste. Plastic, it's everywhere. It has only really existed for the last 70 years, but in that time, plastic has transformed everything from packaging to product design, retailing, and food waste disposal. On average, Australians use 130 kilos of plastic per person each year, with Australia's population set to hit 30 million by 2029 and Melbourne tipped to overtake Sydney as the nation's largest city by 2050. The intractable problem of overuse of plastic and food waste will worsen, leading to far-reaching environmental and social consequences. In 2018, we used 3.4 million tonnes of plastics in Australia and only 9.4% or 320,000 tonnes was recycled. Food waste currently makes up 38% of the average curbside household waste bin. Not only does sending food waste to landfill cost the economy an estimated $20 billion a year, it produces methane, a potent greenhouse gas when it rots. In landfill, it decomposes without oxygen anaerobotically. This process produces odorous gases and methane, which has a global warming potential 25 times greater than carbon dioxide. Further, food waste in landfill also produces leachate, a liquid that's created as material decomposes. This leachate must be carefully managed as it contains harmful substances that can pollute groundwater and waterways if not contained. Alarmingly, up to 130,000 tonnes of plastic winds up in the ocean each year. Considering each person uses roughly 130 kilos of plastic, it means that about 30 kilos of each person's waste could end up in the ocean. Plastic bags pose one of the greatest negative impacts to the ocean wildlife. Even though they only make up a small percentage of our litter, they take 20 years to decompose and can break up into smaller and smaller pieces, having devastating impacts on our wildlife. To add to our recycling woes, only 46% of recycling was processed in Australia last year and 54% was exported for reprocessing. And as recent media coverage has shown, not all industry players are scrupulous, with Indonesia's recent rejection of tonnes of Australian recycling on the basis of B3 hazardous and toxic materials contamination. A systems approach is required to understand this complex problem and all the overlapping component parts. Unfortunately, virgin plastic is still cheaper than recycling the plastic in circulation, and there are few financial incentives for manufacturers to use recycled materials. Australia also lacks much of the technology and infrastructure necessary to turn large volumes of plastic into other useful things. Australia is yet to develop large sustainable markets for recycling plastic products. The waste collection and resource recovery industry are very fragmented. Legislative requirements vary from state to territory, and as a community, many of us are affected by anchoring bias, cognitive bias, and have not properly engaged with the problem. The reduce, reuse, recycle message is getting cut through. Many consumers want to know where our recyclables end up and the cost to the environment, which is driving a new era of improved accountability. Innovative solution development requires hybridity with high levels of stakeholder engagement involving business, government, and communities. Whilst banning the bag is not particularly innovative, it requires enormous coordination, consensus, cooperation and behavioural change for both consumers and businesses. South Australia banned the plastic bag in 2009. So why has it taken the other states so long? And why is the state government of New South Wales opting for a discussion paper over direct action to ban the plastic bag? The Back to Earth initiative is run by the Metropolitan Waste and Resource Recovery Group in partnership with 26 metropolitan and regional Victoria councils to support the successful operation of organics processing facilities. The theory of change is by recycling your food waste, you prevent it going to landfill, which helps reduce greenhouse emissions and odour and leachate production and drives a circular economy supported through the creation of nutrient-rich compost. Unlike nations in Europe that are processing their own waste, saving considerable energy and transport costs and creating jobs and safeguarding the environment, Australia has been slow to move towards the circular economy. Australia now has a national waste policy since 2018, but its voluntary targets are yet to be endorsed by federal and state environment ministers, and so far no formal action plans or funding streams have been developed. We urgently need to bring policies and regulations in line nationally in order to ensure the volumes to build infrastructure, create jobs and grow domestic processing. But we all have a role to play to preserve our environment, so change your behaviour today. Don't use any more plastic bags and start composting. Once you start, others will follow. Thank you.